Okay, so I just want to start this out and say thank you to everybody who's been supporting my channel, as well as my sample pack that I just dropped. The support has been incredible, and I really appreciate it, guys. So keep it up, and thank you so much. I also wanted to say I'm streaming more regularly now. I have a streaming schedule that I'm actually following, which is in the description. And you can also find my sample pack in the description as well. So thank you so much, everybody, and let's dive in. So I have this tutorial project that I've made, literally called Tutorial Project. It's 124 BPM, and as per usual, I've mapped out all the parts of the song. But I've done a little bit of a different type of song than what I usually do with these videos, because I've done more of like a slow builder, as opposed to like the usual way I do it, which is just to make sort of like a big track that 32 bar intro, 16 bar build, and then a drop. This is a little bit slower, but the payoff's a little bit better. So that's just a distinction to make here. And I'm gonna dive in, but first I just want to put in some cassette noise, which is in the sample pack that's included with this video. You can download it in the description, as well as all the samples I'm using in this video and the project file. But yeah, so I'm just gonna put this on repitch so it plays through and doesn't get warped weirdly. Then we're gonna put this sample loop in, and I'm gonna do this arrangement with it, and then I'll talk about it. So a lot of people have been asking me about where to find samples, how should I go about sampling, how can I do all that. And the best advice I can give you is look for sort of vaporwave type of samples. If you think about it, in a lot of ways, lo-fi house is kind of like vaporwave house. That might be a bold claim to make, but the sampling is very similar, and the overall aesthetic and idea behind it is very similar. So if you sort of look through the same sample sources, like the same artists and even some of the same songs that have been used in vaporwave, you can find a lot of interesting stuff that really works. And that's what I did here. This is like a vaporwave kind of track. I'll show you. And I've just gone and chopped it up, and then I've made it into this little 2-bar loop. But yeah, the first thing that I'm going to do on this is there's some nasty resonant frequencies. You may not hear it if you're listening quietly, but if you're listening to it pretty loud or on very detailed speakers, you can hear it. So I'm just going to go through and find those, and I'll explain what I did. Okay, so it wasn't too much, but I wanted to go in and get that. Basically what I did was, you could see I was moving these up all the way, and then listening for the sort of whistling frequencies, like this. You hear that? It's almost like it's whistling. You want to listen for that, and then you cut that. And not too much, because there's stuff around there that still needs to be in the song. So you just use a tight cue and don't keep the gain too low. But by cutting that, I can just make the overall thing a bit cleaner. So after that, for processing, I just put on a auto filter, like a low pass filter, about there, and then a saturator with the a bit warmer preset, and that's gonna sound like this. So that's pretty much how you get that kind of deep, thick, analog-y sound. I'm also gonna cut out a bit of low end because we're gonna put a bass line in later. But now we can start putting in some drums. And I'm going to automate this auto filter, but that's going to come in a little bit later. So anyway, I'm going to lay out some drums, and then I'll explain what I did.
Two hours later. 2,000 years later.
Okay. So I've gone ahead and pretty much laid out the drums, and I'll just explain it to you. So I started with this kick. I'll play it on its own. Sounds like this. And the way I made that was I took the kick sample, which is included with this video in the description. I pitched it down -3 just to make it hit a little bit harder and be a little bit more bassy. And then I cut out a lot around here with an EQ, and that was just a matter of cleaning the sample up, because without it, it sounds like this. So you can hear there was kind of like a weird bump around there that I wanted to get rid of. So after that, I just sidechained the sample to that, which was just to make it all sort of flow a little bit better. You know, now it sounds like this. It kind of just all pumps together nicely, I suppose. After that, I just added some hi-hats, just like these. You know, not much to it, just an open hi-hat and a closed hi-hat with a low-pass filter on each of them. And then I added in a clap, which altogether sounds like this. So, just a pretty standard house pattern. Now, the one thing I do want to talk about is, well, first I added this sort of like rolling snare as well in the build. I'm gonna actually turn this reverb off. But yeah, that's just like a pretty standard roll, like a build one. And I added a utility, turning up the gain so it builds into it and gets louder. After that, I just added this crash doing like this, you know, pretty standard. But I added these little drum fills that I want to talk about. So something I've noticed that a lot of people have been using in these tracks is these sort of like vaporwavy drum fills like this. And the other one's the same. I just added one more hit in there, like just duplicated this over. But the way you get these is, well, you put a lot of reverb on it, you put some distortion or saturation on it, but you want to find like sort of some kind of more 80s sounding drums, and it's particularly the snares and toms, like those big fat toms and snares, like that kind of sound. And then you just want to use them tastefully throughout your track to sort of, I guess, signal a new part coming. I know there's some good packs that have those. I know Sample Magic made those like vaporwave packs. Maybe those would work. I'm not sure. But yeah, so after this, we're gonna put in a bass line. So I'm going to make that, and then I'll get back to you on what I did. Okay, so I pretty much got the bass right. So what I did was I have this MIDI clip in here that you'll get as well. And that just sounds like this. So what I did was I pitched the sample down -3 semitones to match that. So that sounds like this together. But you can see it makes the sample a bit more dreamy and sort of more like, I don't know, kind of sounds a little bit more like shoegazy to me, if you guys are familiar with shoegaze. And yeah, so I just put this bass line. It's just a very simple pattern. It just follows the chords of the song that I listened and found. And then it's a very simple bass patch as well. It's just analog, the Ableton one. Same oscillators as the stock preset. I turned off the release and set the sustain and decay up like that. And then I set the frequency there on the filter. And then I think I turned the decay up a little bit. I just set the envelope like this and put it to 5. And then that just sounds like this. And the only other thing to do is I put the sidechain on there from the sample, so it pumps with it. And all together now, the mix should be sounding like this. So, pretty cool, but we need one more thing to tie it together a little bit more. So, what I have here, and this is like included in the description as well, is this sample from an R&B singer who will remain nameless for the sake of me not getting a copyright strike. But basically it's just this sample. I have it in here somewhere of this. And then I took it and I used the loop function on Simpler and Ableton. And what you can do is you turn on the loop, and then you mess with the start and the length, and then you turn up these fades, and you can get a pretty seamless loop. Here, let me turn it down a little bit. And it sounds pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of something I would hear in like a quartet track. So I'm gonna put this on A sharp 2 because that is the note that when I worked on this earlier, I determined would fit this. I'm pretty sure I did like this. And then on this, we're just gonna put a little low pass filter, which I'm gonna automate to come up and down a little bit. And yeah, not much to this sound. The thing is, it already kind of has that like texture to it. Just sort of by nature of it being like an acapella from the 90s that has that sort of vibe to it. So we really just want to take it and make it and not get in the way too much of that, because that's pretty nice. So I'm just doing a very subtle automation there. But it's going to sound pretty good. I'll show you in the track. And then I'm just doing this in here. And this is just subtle because there's like some more top end on this sample that when I was messing with it earlier, if you filter that in and out, it can sound pretty cool. So yeah, so with that, the whole mix sounds like this. So you can just kind of hear it's a nice little sort of like droning element to sit over top. But yeah, not much more to that. That's pretty much, I wanted to show you sort of how to put together a track, I guess. If you liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, share this video. If you didn't like it, I guess dislike this video, comment, and let me know why you hated it. But yeah, I hope you learned something. Remember to check out my sample pack and download the samples from this video as well. All of this is in the description. Thank you very much. I will see you again in a few days.